Hello, my name is Deepshikha, and you're listening to the podcast for the book How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. 9 suggestions by Dale Carnegie to get the most out of this book. If you wish to get the most out of this book, there is one indispensable requirement, one essential affinity more important than any other rule or technique. Unless you have this one fundamental request, 1,000 rules on how to study will avail little. And if you do have this cardinal endowment, then you can achieve wonders without reading any suggestions from getting the most out of a book. What is this magic requirement? Just this: a deep, driving desire to learn, a vigorous determination to increase your ability to deal with people. How can you develop such an urge? By constantly reminding yourself how important these principles are to you. Picture to yourself how their mastery will aid you in leading a richer, fuller, happier, and more fulfilling life. Say to yourself over and over, my popularity, my happiness, and sense of worth depend to no small extent upon my skill is dealing with people. Second point. Read each chapter rapidly at first to get a bird's eye view of it. You'll probably be tempted then to rush on the next one. Don't, unless you are reading merely for entertainment. But if you are reading because you want to increase your skills in human relations, then go back and reread each chapter thoroughly. In long run, this will mean saving time and getting results. Third point. Stop frequently in your reading to think over what you are reading. Ask yourself just how and when you can apply each suggestion. Fourth point. Read with a crayon, pencil, pen, magic marker, or highlighter in your hand. When you come across a suggestion that you feel you can use, draw a line beside it. If it is a 4-star suggestion, then underscore every sentence or highlight it, or mark it with inverted commas. Marking and underscoring a book makes it more interesting and far easier to review rapidly. I knew a woman who had been office manager for a large insurance concern for 15 years. Every month, she read all the insurance contracts her company has issued that month. Yes, she read all the same contracts over month after month, year after year. Why? Because experience has taught her that was the only way she could keep their provisions clearly in mind. I once spent almost 2 years writing a book on a public speaking, and yet I found I had to keep going back over it from time to time in order to remember what I had written in my own book. The rapidity with which we forget is astonishing. So, if you want to get a real, lasting benefit out of this book, don't imagine that skimming through it once will suffice. After reading it thoroughly, you ought to spend a few hours reviewing it every month. Keep it on your desk in front of you every day. Glance through it often. Keep constantly impressing yourself with the rich possibilities for improvement that still lie in the offing. Remember that the use of these principles can be made habitual only by a constant and vigorous campaign of review and application. There is no other way. Sixth point. Bernard Shaw once remarked, "If you teach a man anything, he will never learn." Shaw was right. Learning is an active process. We learn by doing. If you desire to master the principles you are studying in this book, do something about them. Apply these rules at every opportunity. If you don't, you will forget them quickly. Only knowledge that's used stick in your mind. You'll probably find it difficult to apply these suggestions all the time. I know, because I wrote the book, and yet frequently I found it difficult to apply everything I advocate. For example, when you are displeased, it is much easier to criticize and condemn than it is to try to understand the other person's viewpoint. It's frequently easier to find fault than to find praise. It is more natural to talk about what you want than talk about what the other person wants, and so on. So, as you read this book, remember that you are not merely trying to acquire information. You're attempting to form new habits. Ah, yes. You are attempting a new way of life that will require time and persistence and daily application. So, refer to these pages often. Regard this as a work handbook on human relations, and whenever you are confronted with some specific problem, such as handling a child, winning your spouse to your way of thinking, or satisfying an irritated customer, hesitate about doing the natural thing, the impulsive thing. This is usually wrong. Instead, turn to these pages and review the progress you have underscored. Then, try these new ways and watch them achieve magic for you. 7th point. Offer your spouse, your child, or some business associate a dime or a dollar every time he or she catches you violating a certain principle. Make a lively game out of mastering these rules. 8th point. The president of an important Wall Street bank once described in a talk before one of my classes a highly efficient system be used for self-improvement. This man had little formal schooling, yet he had become one of the most fanciers in America, and he confessed that he owned most of his business to the consent application of his homemade system. This is what he does. I'll put it in his own words as accurately as I can remember. For years, I have kept an engagement book showing all the appointments I had during the day. My life never made any plans for me on Saturday night, for my family knew that I devoted a part of each Sunday evening to the illuminating process of self-examination and review and appraisal. After dining, I went off by myself, opened an engagement book, and thought over all of the interviews, discussions, and meetings that had taken place during this week. I asked myself, what mistakes did I make that time? What did I do that was right? And in what way could I improve my performance? What lessons can I learn from the experience? I often found that this weekly review made me very unhappy. I was frequently astonished at my own blunders. Of course, as the years passed, these blunders became less frequent. Sometimes I was inclined to pat myself on the back a little after one of these sessions. The system of self-analysis, self-education, continued year after year, did more for me than any other one thing I have ever attempted. It helped me improve my ability to discussions, and it aided me enormously in all my contacts with people. I can't recommend it too highly. Why not use a similar system to check up your application of the principle discussed in this book? If you do, two things will result. First, you'll find yourself engaged in an educational process that is both intriguing and priceless. Second, you'll find that your ability to meet and deal with people will grow enormously. 9th point. You'll find at the end of this book several blank pages on which you should record your triumphs in the application of these principles. Be specific. Give names, dates, results. Keeping such a record will inspire you to great efforts, and how fascinating these entries will be when you chance upon them some evening years from now. In order to get the most out of this book, develop a deep, driving desire to master the principle of human relations. Read each chapter twice before going on to the next one. As you read, stop frequently to ask yourself how you can apply each suggestion, underscore each important idea, review this book each month. Apply these principles at every opportunity. Use this volume as a working handbook to help you solve your daily problems. Make a lively game out of your learning by offering some friend a dime or a dollar every time he or she catches you violating one of these principles. Check up each week on the progress you are making. Ask yourself what mistakes you have made what improvements, what lessons you have learned for the future. Keep notes in the back of this book showing how and when you have applied these principles.